From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan
And Corey Clark.
Remember when we were jacking cars?
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It is Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. Coming up on today's show, practice observations, fun times, fiscal times as the Noles head inside Doak Campbell Stadium before a 5-day break. Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill in Tallahassee, Florida, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. You can always hit that QR code on your screen. It will take you right to the website. You can check out the social calendar as well as the daily lunch specials. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, you can't beat it. Late night, lunchtime, it don't matter. It's always popping off, as the kids might say. Chicken strip basket today, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., only $8.99, hand-breaded, served with a dipping sauce, or tossed in a sauce if you're choosing. Only $8.99, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., and you get a side dish with it, too. So check it out, the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Also, shake it, take it, vitaminenergy.com, promo code WARCHANTBOGO, that's B-O-G-O, because you buy one, you get one free. It's that easy. Just go to the website, put your order in, put that promo code in, and profit with a free item, free case of this stuff. Then give it to your friends. Keep it yourself. Hog it at the office. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to do with it, it's going to be successful, whether it's yourself or giving out to your friends, because of 260 milligrams of natural caffeine and no sugar, which means no sugar crash. 7 hours of energy, packed with vitamins, tastes great. Going to go with the Mood Plus, Corey, the Mood and Energy Booster, as I head home this weekend to help my mother move so I can, be a well-behaved son and do my part. I'll do my part by taking the Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com, promo code WARCHANTBOGO, B-O-G-O. Use it. Corey, how are you?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. You always do a nice job of those reads. They're not even reads, guys. Those are off the dome. Those are Aslan just going off the dome to start the show. You crush it. And it is from the heart. Yeah. You crushed it. Every day you crush it. I don't know why I'm acting surprised. I'm not.
What's going on? Is you about to tell me I'm fired or something? Or buttering me up?
No. But hey, Gene does want to talk to you when you get back. And bring all the passwords. Bring all your passwords
bring your
for
playbook.
Our social media.
Bring your notebook.
Yeah.
Warchant.com is the ultimate Seminole sports source. $29.99. Subscribe from now until September 1st. Do it. It's going to be a really fun season, I feel like. Thumbs up, 5-star rating and review as well. Corey, the only thing that was running through my mind watching practice on Thursday was of course, Corey's got to be a dad and run around and be up in Atlanta, hang out with the sun. You'll be down here all next week as we get into the spring showcase. But as we talked about with the question on Renegade Express about who does Coach Norvell remind us of, and we're talking about is he a little bit of this guy, a little bit of that guy? Is he fun-loving? Is he really serious? Man, they had a really physical practice. We'll talk about that here a little bit on the show. But, man, they ended practice for maybe 20 minutes of this competition, this fun-spirited competition. And we don't know exactly who the teams were. We asked Norvell after we were done recording, and he's like, you wouldn't know. That it's part of their accountability group. So each of these, there's maybe 7, 8, guys are on an accountability group to keep each other lifting and waking up and on schedule and stuff. So that's how they were competing. But they pretty much were going from station to station. I think maybe they're doing some snapping on the far side of the field we couldn't see, but they were kicking field goals and they were punting the ball. Kalen DeLoach, big leg, Corey. Would not have thought. Booming leg. Jordan Travis, pure athlete. He also punted quite well. Saw C.J. Campbell, Jeremiah Byers. Jeremiah Byers had a nice punt. I think Darius Washington hit an extra point. So they did this for 20 minutes, and Norvell would do his 3-whistle cadence, and I'm like, oh, good, practice is over. But then they would rotate. They went from station to station. Pretty sure the accountability group that had Ja'Kai Douglas and Kentron Portier on it won because they both celebrated when they announced the winning score and were spraying water everywhere. So, this guy that obviously runs a really tight ship, is very demanding, was yelling very, very loudly inside Doak Campbell Stadium on Thursday. But when it was all said and done, when they were done with practice, they did this kind of, team bonding. Let's unwind a little bit because we're going to be off for 5 days for Easter weekend. And, I don't know, it was a nice little twist. It's just looking around, you're like, man, these guys really like each other. We feel good about the way they're playing. They feel good about the way they're playing. Is it going to be this easy, Corey? We're just going to cruise to an ACC championship this year because I don't see the roadblocks. I'm just drunk off the Kool-Aid.
I like that it's a kicking competition with like wide receivers, no linemen to get you there. I like it, Aslan. Whatever it takes, man. Whatever it takes. I mean, I don't know that that's uncommon. I don't remember that happening with Norvell the last few years, but it's not uncommon for any football team to have. I just remember Georgia because obviously that's where I went to school. But Mark Richt would always have a pool day where they'd all go just swim in the pool instead. He'd cancel practice and they'd go swimming. They'd have like a pool party. I don't know that Kirby does that, and Kirby wins more than Mark Richt did. So maybe there's a correlation there. I don't know. But I do think all of them, including Kirby, including Nick, they know they got to keep it a little bit fun, and they got to keep it a little bit light, especially during the dog days. And I know it's April, so you can't really call them the dog days of April, but it is a lot of, what is it, 6 weeks with 1 month? So basically 5 weeks of practice. And a lot, it's a lot of football. And so to give them, and also it doesn't sound like, I wasn't there on Thursday, it doesn't sound like the whole practice was just goofing off. Like it sounded like they had goal line drills.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was like a nice kind of, palate cleanser, if you will, at least for those guys. I was sitting down in the sun enjoying myself. But
Sure.
it was a very goal line heavy day. And the defense led the way. Asked Coach Norvell afterwards, because I saw Coach Storms keeping track, but I wasn't able to keep track myself. But I think Norvell said it was 10-5, he thought. And I was like, defense? He's like, yes. So take with that as you wish, everybody. Mm-hmm. I thought the defense on the whole played really, really well throughout the practice on Thursday. And it wasn't one of those like drop passes or the offense not being sharp. It was like the defense took it to them. In terms of like key standouts, man, it was like team effort, man. Everyone was just kind of getting to the ball. I took notes, but there wasn't really anybody in particular I thought that really stood out. There's a really nice pass breakup down the sideline between Renardo. It was awesome. Renardo and Johnny Wilson jostling, and it's one of those throws I think that we all were hoping that Johnny would make in a game. But it was a nice pass breakup, I thought, and it was right on the sideline. As soon as it was done, Renardo just like walked, like just didn't even flinch. Like had the pass breakup, like jabbed it out of Johnny's breadbasket and walked off the sideline broad-shouldered. Like everybody was jumping on him. Later on in that goal line situation, Quindarius Jones was getting really handsy with Johnny. Johnny might have got flagged for offensive PI. Pushed him, but Quindarius stayed close enough and knocked the pass down. Those were two of the more kind of plays that we can talk about. You saw what I was talking about in the Slack. Man, they were using they did a lot of stuff on Thursday in goal line, Corey, that if they do in a game situation, they are either going to look brilliant, and I think they'll look brilliant, even though they didn't hit on a lot of them on Thursday. But it's either going to be deemed too cute or brilliant. I think it'll be brilliant because they'll have enough time to kind of smooth out the kinks in these things. But, formationally, personnel-wise, what they were doing on the goal line, it just further kind of underlines and underscores just how much depth and talent they have on the offensive side of the ball. Now, they weren't able to capitalize all the time, but these seem to be really new things. Listen, Corey, you're out there. You see them practice every single rep. They were doing stuff that we have not seen yet. Maybe they were doing it in scrimmage situations, but new things that make you feel really kind of excited about what it could be once they do get the kinks kind of ironed out.
I can't comment on what they were doing necessarily, but I do remember a preseason practice last year. I don't think it was the spring. I think it was preseason. It definitely was preseason. It was in August where they went into the stadium and they did, 20 reps of goal line. It was like a whole goal line practice. And I do think that matters to this guy. Getting back to the point about them going and having fun and kicking field goals and punting and everything, is he works them before that. And those goal line practices and drills aren't fun, but they're so much a part of what your team is. If you're trying to be a physical, tough-minded team, those goal line practices are like in the DNA. That's part of it. And as we get away further and further from tackling and like 80s football and Junction Boys football in the 50s and all that stuff that many of the people listen to this and you and I kind of grew up with, as we get further and further away from that, you still can't take the physicality out of football. Mm-hmm. It's not flag football. You have to tackle. You have to be physical. And, that's what Norvell preaches, clearly. And those are kind of the defining moments of a practice. So I think that had a lot to do with it. Like, okay, I'm going to run them through the ringer here for 30 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it is, and then we're going to go have some fun. But when it comes to what they can do around the goal line, they have a lot of options. Benson's big. Jordan Travis is tough to deal with. If Jordan Travis wants to get a yard running around, it's tough to keep him from getting a yard. Mm-hmm. Then you've got Trey Benson. You've got Jaheim Bell. You've got even guys like Ja'Kai Douglas. There are just a lot of dudes that, and I didn't even mention Johnny Wilson. I just did, but I hadn't before that. One of my big pet peeves, Aslan, as I've mentioned before, is when somebody says not to mention, and then they mention the very thing they just said not to mention. It's never made sense. Doesn't make sense. They've got a lot of weapons around the 5 or 10 yard line, and they were good, I think, in goal line last year. And the year before, I know they had that great red zone streak. But there were also a few duds of plays, including the Clemson game. They're going to want to be a little bit better, just like they want to be better at everything in goal line. But you would think with that offensive line being bigger and better, that should help, right? It's so physical.
Yeah. I'm trying to pull up their red zone stuff. I usually have this stuff right at my disposal. Red zone offense was 61st. Boo. Yeah, they were credible in 2021, but their total offense, their scoring offense was 15th, right. So that's fine. We'll take it to 36 points. But, it was a physical practice, too, and Norvell mentioned as much. It's almost like you were there, Corey, talking to him, because he even said, like, in this day and age, he's like, it's really hard to get the sort of physical stuff that you want in there. He's like, but I thought we did a really good job of it. And they did. In the spirit of the new law in Florida that allows you to carry a firearm without a permit, I want to unleash a new segment, Corey, called Unload the Clip Board.
Okay, all right.
So these are all the things that were listed on my piece of paper on my clip board.
Got it.
Shout out! You want to talk about physical play and Ja'Kai Douglas? Omar Graham might be somebody, Corey. I don't know that. I feel like that's a tease of like All-American. I'm not saying that. He's going to probably play above his recruiting grade. I think he'll be better than like a 3-star kind of run-of-the-mill linebacker. He seems to really kind of put some things together here in the last few practices. Great sideline-to-sideline tackle of Ja'Kai. And, man, he, like, grabbed, like, the inside collar of his jersey and, like, threw him down. And it was physical. It was incredible. Hakeem Williams capped off the early portion team when they go tempo. They went 3 and out, Jordan Travis and his guys. They went 3 and out, and Norvell's like, all right, put out Tate and the guys. And they had a really long, sustained drive. Okay. And it ended with a touchdown to Hakeem Williams. And this kind of ties into a little bit of, some people were asking on the show yesterday about, where would you want to go with a scholarship? Man, when you watch the second-team defense, the safeties, like, there's not a lot of guys that you were excited about on signing day. Ladies and gentlemen, like these, so that they're walk-ons. They're mostly walk-ons, like on your second-team defense. So they need to kind of maybe shore that up. But that Hakeem touchdown, Azaria was on him, and him and Azaria, they met maybe 3-4 yards off the ball, and Hakeem out-physicaled him, ran past him, caught it in the corner of the end zone, like right in front of me. So that was a really nice touchdown by Hakeem. The great pass breakup I talked about from Renardo on Johnny. A.J. Duffy, I think you mentioned he might be a little bit more athletic than we're giving him credit for, Corey. He had a legit, I feel like it was a legit read option where he kept it and he ran for probably about like a 35-yard touchdown when they were doing 11-on-11 stuff. There wasn't any 7-on-7, I recall. I mean, they were doing 11-on-11 stuff and then a lot of the goal line. Our guy Tyler Keltner drilled a 50-yarder midway through practice, like when they did a break to just do a field goal. I mean, they were doing drives, but then in the middle of it, Norvell just like, I want the field goal unit. They ran out there, 50-yard field goal. Keltner drilled it. Period 3, when they were doing all the team stuff and the tempo in that early period, 11-on-11 core, he came out for a 30-yarder, and he also hit it. I thought good little day from Tate Rodemaker, some bootleg action, and the location of the throw. I mean, he pirouetted on this bootleg and found the outside shoulder of Rodney Hill along the boundary, and he just had such nice leverage that he ended up scoring a touchdown on the run and the route. So they do a lot of crazy things, man. It's just like, how are you going to defend these people for that long? And also, I should actually pull it up. I don't want to just say the kid's name, but I thought Christian White is a defensive back. He's a walk-on from Eagles Landing Christian Academy.
Okay.
Now, I don't think he's going to crack the starting lineup, but man, it just kind of goes to show you like how good it is, Corey. If you can have, guys that maybe are your third teamers, fourth teamers that can go run with some of the second team guys and give you really good looks and give you some really good reps. I thought he had a pretty good day, and I've seen him make some plays throughout the spring. He had a really nice pass breakup on Hakeem, like in the open field where it wasn't one of those things where you had the sideline to help you out. It was kind of just a pure, I'm on your hip, I'm going to punch the ball as soon as it gets into your hands and knock it out. So that caught my eye too. So that's me unloading the clipboard. So it was a good price. We miss you, Corey. We miss you.
I know. Hey, man, I miss being down there. There's a lot to address there, I guess. I think the Duffy part is interesting because like I mentioned in the last practice, we knew he wasn't slow. It's not like he was billed as just this plodding statue Tom Brady quarterback when he got here. He was supposed to be able to move. And I'll just be honest, I didn't really see it last year. I mean, anytime, even when he would take off and kind of sprint around the defensive linemen, he might get around them, but it wasn't like he was sprinting past them like they were standing still, like a really good athlete would. They kind of ran with him. And then I just feel like this year it's up a tick. I mean, again, I don't know how to measure it, but it's up a tick. He's faster. And again, I think that goes with just, working out every day in a college in a college weight room. You're going to get faster and stronger, and I just see it. Still got to see some stuff with the throwing, but man, it's good to know that tool is there, right? He's not Jordan Travis, but who is? But he's, I don't know, man, faster than Francois. In my opinion, I mean, he can
2018 Francois. 2018
correct.
Francois.
Well, no, 2016 Francois.
Oh, really?
Like he wasn't a blazer, and I think Duffy's at least that athletic. I'm not going to say he's as good as 16 Francois, but I think he's that athletic. I think he can move like that, and that's good. That's a good thing to have in case other stuff breaks down. And then, going back to Renardo Green, Jeff was talking about him on Seminole Headlines about having a decent year last year. And he did, and I didn't feel like pushing back. But I think Renardo Green was more than decent. I think Renardo Green was darn good. Like, he was a good college cornerback last year. Now, we come from a different grading vantage point at Florida State because some of the best that have ever put on football pads have played cornerback at Florida State. So, no, we didn't have a Dion year or a T-Buck year or like a Corey Sawyer, Jalen Ramsey, Tay Cody. Like, all these guys, he didn't have those types of years. But he was good, and so to hear you describe that play where he breaks it up on Johnny Wilson and just walks off, it's like, he's probably thinking that's what I do.
Yep.
I don't need to celebrate and do a Dikembe finger wag or an incomplete. I'm just going to stand up and walk away because that's my job and I do it well. So that's good to see. I was so impressed. He was kind of got lost in the and we talked about him. It's not like we ignored him. But what he did and his contribution last year kind of got lost in the fog of the offense being great and Jordan and Johnny Wilson and Jared Verse and all that. But man, Renardo Green was a really big addition last year, and I consider that an addition because I didn't count on him at all going into 2022 at all.
Yeah.
And then he comes out and is your best corner. That was really surprising and really encouraging, and he's back. And man, he's had a really good spring, I think.
Trying to sort all this. I mean, I took out. You had to play a minimum of 300 snaps last year, and he was like in the top 100 cornerbacks graded out. 73.5 overall, 90 in run defense, 80 in his tackling. So, and 70 in coverage was his grade. You want to be at 60, so he overachieved on that. Man, Renardo is their number one cornerback, right? That's one of the, we don't know maybe who's the best on certain spots on the offensive line. I think we all agree Trey Benson's your number one back. Obviously, we know the quarterback, probably Johnny. I guess maybe Verse. But, I think when it comes to cornerback, and I don't know if we can say Shaheem or Akeem. I think we've seen enough. We've seen more from Akeem, so maybe we would think that Akeem is better than Shaheem. But, no, Renardo's for sure their best cornerback. I think even better than Greedy Vance. And Greedy was their leader in picks, so... and he's gotten better, I feel like, this spring. No, Renardo?
That's what I'm saying. I think Renardo's been really good all spring. I don't remember watching a lot of plays where you're like, man, Renardo, what was that? He's usually there. He's in the right position. Sometimes Johnny makes the catch because he's Johnny, but Renardo's always right there. He's just dependable, man. Yep. He's just a guy that is going to be out there and is going to make plays. And I don't mean make plays as like pick sixes. He's not going to let me phrase it another way. He's not going to let the other team make a lot of plays. Which is kind of what you want in a cornerback. That's really kind of their main job. So it's good to see. And don't forget Cypress. Like, he's build is better than Renardo Green. We'll see. But if he's anywhere close to what Renardo Green was I shouldn't say that. If he's close, It's not like Renardo Green was a Thorpe Award candidate. He was good. But if Cypress can be on that level, the Renardo Green level, well, now you've got solid cornerback play, solid to good. Because, Greedy Vance, Jarian Jones, the Azarie Thomas, I mean, you've got some depth there, which, it might get to the point, man, the more we look at this safety play and the longer that, I don't know, just the way we look at it is like, is Omarion going to be the only one that moves? Like, do they have to think about maybe something else at that position if the portal doesn't produce what you'd like it to produce, or if you don't have the depth that you'd like to have? There's some guys that have played a lot of football that I feel like they might, you'd hate to do it now after spring practice, but maybe they take a look at another guy. And I just say this name because right now, to me, he's like the fourth or fifth guy, and that's Azarie Thomas. I think Azarie is going to be a very good college football player, but right now, I feel like he's, when you're just listing the cornerbacks, and I include nickelbacks in that, I think Renardo, Fintrell Cypress, Jarian Jones, and Greedy Vance are all ahead of him, just the way they played this spring.
I agree.
And again, he's the youngest of that bunch, so that's maybe not to be, maybe shouldn't be too surprising. But if you've got four guys ahead of you, and that Noles is going to be in the mix too at some point. You've got 4 or 5 guys ahead of you, and the new kid.
They like Quindarius Jones, man. Yeah. They like him a lot.
So maybe you think about, if you don't think that if it doesn't take with Travis and Duke like you wanted it to, you got other options. You got athletes out there, man. Yeah. But that said, I think they like Azarie at corner. They want his long body out there, but they're not. They leave you wanting at safety right now.
Yes,
and that's they might have some players that can maybe fill up that depth, or at least cross train. Jamie Robinson came in and was their nickel corner for the first couple weeks of the season. And maybe if he's playing safety on that final play, that ill-fated play, Jacksonville State doesn't score, and we'd have gone to 2 straight bowls. But so they might realize, okay, this isn't. The point being, they train these guys to be versatile. Right now, it's usually between nickel corner and outside corner, but maybe they do safety nickel or safety outside corner. Just cross train a little bit and see what takes, if anything, and then more about what you might need in the portal.
What do you think when you hear? I know you weren't. You obviously wish you had your eyes on it, but like when you hear me, I'm sure you talk to Ira, you'll hear the same thing. I'm sure you talk to Jeff, you'll hear the same thing. Like another day where the defense seems to be getting maybe the better of things when they're going up against the offense. How much of that is, have we, are we putting way too high expectations on Jordan that if Jordan doesn't carve them up, it's like, oh, the defense is, like way ahead right now. Like, are we almost going to weird grading scale with him? Or like, how do you kind of feel when you see maybe another day, or you hear about another day where the defense seems to be performing and getting the better of the offense? How does that kind of make you judge where things are for this program right now?
I mean, again, I kind of go back to, it's what I've always thought is you don't want to hear about your defense just getting obliterated. You don't want to hear about Jordan Travis throwing for 6 touchdowns in a scrimmage or 6 touchdowns in a practice. That's bad news. But more than anything, because we know, I feel like we know what this offense is, and we can go back to last year and last August. There was that one. Remember, there was the one practice right before we all went to Jacksonville, where where Jordan Travis just lit them up. And Tate did too a little bit, but Jordan Travis was just, it was ridiculous. I tweeted about it. We wrote about it. It's like, what in the world was that? That was crazy. Like, it was just, it looked like the Oklahoma game in the second half. It just looked like what Jordan Travis ended up being. But we had not seen that version of Jordan Travis in the Florida State offense yet. So it was very surprising and very noteworthy. But it happened, I don't know, man, out of the 25 practices in the preseason, I feel like that was the only one that stands out of where the offense just dominated the defense. And it turned, so if we want to go, like, let's just say the offense won, maybe I'm wrong, and the offense won 5 of those practices in August. Well, that means the defense won the other 20. And it still turned out okay for Florida State's offense, right? Like I just think you can't maybe judge how the offense is going to clearly by how it does against its own defense. But more than anything, I just think the bigger question mark going into 2023 is what the defense is going to be. And if the defense is playing well against this offense, well, that does bode well. That does bode well for the season and for the improvement they're trying to make, right?
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't be worried. I'm not worried about Jordan Travis, and I'm not worried about those. And also, we always have to emphasize the running game isn't really the running game in practice. You don't get the full impact of what this running game is when there's no tackles being made. Literally anytime a running back breaks through a hole and runs more than 7 or 8 yards, they blow the whistle, plays dead. So you don't get the full effect of what this offense is. So we only really kind of judge it about how they look on passing plays. And that could be tough with no running game.
Yeah, well said. But I guess maybe the counter to that, if you want to give some extra credit to the defense to offset that, I don't think the defense is anywhere near, and they definitely don't have their full allotment of guys. I think the offense definitely has way more of the pieces they want to use to be successful this year versus what the defense has right now. There's guys that are out and being severely limited for the defense right now, more so than the offense, at least in my opinion. I mean, we heard about Micah and Robert Scott being out. Those are two big important pieces. But, man, the defense, especially on Thursday, man, they're just like, they're not using him, and they're still playing. And this is a very physical sort of, more or less geared practice, and they're kind of stepping up. So that's kind of my biggest takeaway from Thursday's practice. MyBookie.ag, it's MLB has started, NBA playoffs are starting, the Masters is underway. You can bet anything, anytime, anywhere at MyBookie. Use the promo code WARCHANT for a cash deposit bonus. They also got the MyBookie money bag, which will let you make bets on your favorite teams and players with expanded and increased boosted odds. So check that out over at MyBookie.ag. I had to unfortunately edit some of Corey's great insight into the read yesterday because we're going a little bit long. But sure enough, he talked about the Masters rewarding greatness. And shout out Brooks Koepka. You want to? Yeah. So we should have listened to Corey. I listened to Corey. You guys,
right.
I didn't make the cut. But yeah, so Corey knows what he's talking about. Should let that make air. But you can bet on the Masters. You can bet on the first who's going to make the cut. I guess top 20. These are the sort of the props that are available all over at mybookie.ag. Use the promo code WARCHANT for that cash deposit bonus, and also check out the MyBookie money bag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere over at mybookie.ag. After practice, Corey also was able to ask Coach Norvell about the spring game stuff, about hey, Hugh Freeze said he would like to scrimmage in our team. What do you think? And he seemed kind of open to it. I guess you're not allowed to. I guess it's not like the NCAA won't allow you right now. I guess he made it sound like it's not a possibility. But if it were to become, permitted, it's something that he would see the value in and probably want to get in on. And he did kind of even chuckle to himself, and he was like, yeah, even if it doesn't have to even necessarily be a full-out game, he's like, I wouldn't mind, blended practices with different teams. He's like, but then again, I don't know in this day and age of the portal. He's like, if you really want to mix your teams up. And I was like, oh, hey, look at Mike. Yep. So Mike's got jokes. So, yeah, man, I don't know. Again, it's just something to talk about, I guess, in practice 11 of a long, what feels like a long spring so far. But, yeah, he was mentioning that's something that he's, again, I guess just kind of maybe speaks also to the fact that there's not a lot that gets by him, right? Like he's got his fingers on the pulse of what other coaches are doing, what other, they're trying to stay ahead on the cutting edge and not the bleeding edge of a lot of stuff when it comes to being prepared for whatever may be out there on the horizon. But I don't know. Let's bring Troy down. I'm all about it. Bring the Trojans down. Let's do it.
Yeah. All right. Are there Division II? There's got to be Division II teams in Florida,
West
right?
Florida, I think. I think UWF. They were like the Division II national champions when they had that quarterback that we tried to get
from Pensacola, right?
Yeah, the Argonauts.
Yeah, so like that, I guess that would make more sense. I don't know. Like I like the idea of it. I like the theory of it. I just in practice, I don't know how. Like if you're not going to play a real game, what are you getting out of it?
Well, that's the thing he said. He's like, we like
can't
that.
Coach those other guys.
He's
so
like,
you can't tell them to not hurt your quarterback.
He did say he likes to have fundamental-driven practices, and he's like, we don't want to do game planning stuff. He's like, but you don't necessarily have to do that. He's like, you can talk to the coaching staffs and outline what you want to do. So, yeah, they could still practice. I mean, it's just having to focus a little bit different, man. It's not like going up against the same guy. It is a different guy. Maybe he's not as good as Fabian Lovett. So but I still think there's got to be some sort of benefit there because you're not going to play Fabian Lovett 13 weeks out of the season, right? You're going to play Clemson's front sometimes, but then you're going to also play Syracuse's front. You got to be ready for those situations. It's just testing them, putting them in. I
feel like again, I get worried about let's say Jared Verse is being Jared Verse and just talking to everyone that will listen. Well, then they get mad and they might, what's keeping other than honor. What's keeping a right guard from pulling and diving at his knees?
Well, why don't they do that during a game though?
Well, because they don't want to get a flag.
Oh, so
and they don't want to hurt. They don't want to hurt their team necessarily. But if it's a scrimmage that doesn't count, and these coaches aren't coaching you, so it's not like you're going to get in trouble. Norvell's not going to suspend you. He's not your coach. It's just you don't have as much purview of everybody that's on the field. But I and that's just me because, I grew up an Atlanta sports fan, man. I always see the negative in things. So I think the positives probably would outweigh the negatives. And Hugh Freeze was right? Or was it Hugh Freeze that said it? Like the chances of injury are lessened, cut in half. I mean, that's true. Yeah, but you worry about guys' motives that aren't in your program. And, obviously those happen on Saturdays all the time. But Saturdays they're keeping score. And there's video review, and there's repercussions for dirty play, but there wouldn't be really in a spring game. So that would be my only concern. But hey, buddy, I'm all for it. I'm all for anything to get this a little more fan friendly and more footballish, because I just feel like it's going to turn more into the Pro Bowl, and we don't want that. We want real football because we starve for it. Like, we're lucky we get to watch football. We've gotten to watch football for the last month, right, Aslan? We've gotten to see real football in real football plays. Not tackling, but real football plays. The people listening to this haven't seen Florida State football since December 28th. So I get that we're all starving for it. This would feel, I guess, more like a real Florida State football play. All right. A Florida State game, a Florida State event, if they're playing somebody else. Yeah.
I guess I'm just naive. I just feel like coaches would keep these guys in line. Like, hey, listen, we're going down to Jacksonville to play this team or whatever. Like, hey, nothing stupid. We're here to get better. Don't get, and I don't know. We'll see. Again, it's not even something that apparently is permitted by the NCAA, so it's just a pipe dream for now. But
what would they do to you, though? What would be the punishment if you just you paid Troy $50,000 to come down for your spring game?
Right. Yeah,
what would they do? Were they going to? I mean,
lack of institutional control.
That's right. Put you on probation.
But the funny thing is, if you made the playoff, it's like, well, this isn't an NCAA-sanctioned event. It's the college football playoff. So stick that in your pipe. That's the thing, because they don't have the jurisdiction over that stuff. Otherwise, the only other thing I thought that was kind of cool, asking Norvell about, somebody pointed out, I think Old Dad's a Nole in the comments, or the Renegade Express, about, like, can they keep going to the portal? Robert Scott's like the only guy that they've recruited out of high school that's starting. Maybe somebody on the back end. Shaheem could be one of those guys. But that's the thing. Is like Quindarius Jones had a really good practice day. He's had a really good spring. And I kind of asked him about how, like, fulfilling it is when you see a guy, like these under-heralded guys that aren't talked about, Shaheem, Quindarius, and you see how well they're performing, like how, like, vindicated does that make you feel? And he's like, man, I'm not happy for us or anything. He's like, I'm happy for the kids. He's like, we know what we're evaluating. He's like, if it's like, it's cool if everybody's talking about it, that gets a little bit more publicity for everybody. He's like, but we trust in what we want, what's going to fit. And that's the most important thing. He's like, we're not going to follow. He's like, what does it matter to us if everybody else is recruiting a kid and offering him? Like, what does them offering a kid have to do with us and how they're going to fit what we want to do? So, there's going to be a point where they're going to have to wean off this portal, but you see the way that they are getting some of these guys that might not be as, again, heralded. Dude, Shaheem Brown, like, I don't know. There was something about him today. I don't know if it's because he had, like, one of those high socks on one leg, so he almost looked like a basketball player or something. But, I got him pulled up here on the roster. Man, he's 6'2", 217. To maybe some people, that doesn't sound like a big dude. To me, that's a really big defensive back. And, man, he moves so well, and he was a kid that wasn't even thought of. He wasn't on anybody's recruiting radar at all. Yeah. And as soon as they offered him, he went from like a no-star to at least like a 3-star just out of principle. Like, all right, well, Florida State's on this kid. He's got to have some kind of juice. Quindarius Jones apparently played receiver, so maybe that's a large reason of why some of these other programs didn't see projecting him to playing cornerback or defensive back. So these are the kind of things that, we'll keep tabs on here as they go through a spring evaluation and start offering some more kids. I know they got a 3-star commitment a few days ago, and some people are like, well, we'll see. But, man, he mentioned it too. He's like, all the resources the NFL has, all the time they spend on going through draft prep. And listen, they don't have a 53-man roster, and how many people they miss. He's like, we're not going to hit on everybody. He's like, but I feel really good about what we've been able to do. And I think there's at some point here, I think in the next year or two, we'll probably start seeing it taken over, right, Corey? Maybe they won't be all Hakeem Williams, all-world prospects coming out of high school, but they've seemed to find guys that fit, and they can coach them up well, and they're going to be factors this season. Guys like Quindarius Jones, which I couldn't believe. It's crazy.
Well, look, we'll see, right? Like, I agree with the sentiment. And, we have these conversations on Seminole Headlines a good bit because Ira, and it's not like I disagree with Ira, but Ira touts their evaluation ability on the recruiting trail, not in the portal where they've obviously evaluated very well, again, with guys that not everybody wanted now, and they played really well for them. But on the recruiting trail, there's guys that all the Norvell guys, like who's been the best of the bunch of all his recruits that have shown up here under the radar, like DJ Lundy. Okay, solid player. Yeah. Is he dynasty Florida State? Would he have sniffed the field in 13? No. And so again, that's the fan base we're talking to. So DJ Lundy, a good story, a guy nobody really wanted that turns out to be a nice college player. Ja'Kai Douglas. You go down the line, Josh Farmer. And look, Scott. I think Josh Farmer is going to be a very good player. He might be an awesome player, but it hasn't been proven yet. It's been proven to us on the practice field, but he's got to go prove it on Saturdays. Robert Scott's probably the best guy that they brought in on their own. And so, again, they brought in some starters, and they brought in some good depth pieces. Have they brought in stars? And I think that's the next step. And I don't know that you can – well, I do know. You're not going to consistently bring in a star-studded roster if you're only recruiting from the three-star pool.
But can't Shaheem? I mean, the way you see
Shaheem can be. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He can be, and I'm not saying they aren't. Though, like, if we're having this conversation again October 1st, I might be singing it completely and like, look, man, see, yeah, Shaheem Brown, absolutely, Josh Farmer, look at that
Patrick Payton,
dude.
right? Patrick Payton, we haven't mentioned. Yes. That's a big one too.
So that's a good one too. Again, though, they're guys that haven't arrived yet.
Right.
And I would include Patrick Payton in that group.
They're young.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, they're young. Well, Robert Scott isn't, DJ Lundy isn't, but they're good players. They're probably outplaying what we thought they could be. But the point is that the guys that we really think that they've hit on haven't technically arrived yet. Okay. But when they do, that's when I think that becomes more provable to number one, to your fan base. Like, see, we know what we're doing. Like, Jimbo got the benefit of the doubt. He had a lot of dudes that didn't pan out. He also had Xavier Rhodes was a 3-star. Devontae Freeman was a 0-star. Bjorn Werner was a 3-star. And those all paid. So he earned that benefit of the doubt when he got a 3-star to commit. Like, okay, Jimbo sees something in him that these other guys aren't seeing. I don't know that Norvell has earned that quite yet.
Oh, no.
October 1st, we might be having that conversation.
Yeah.
We're like, look, Josh Farmer looks like one of the best defensive linemen in the country. So does Patrick Payton. And look at Shaheem Brown making all these plays. And Ja'Kai Douglas can play, and Toa Feely's a really good running back. That I think that's coming, but it's hard to say for sure because of what we see in practice. I guess I'm just speaking for the people that listen to the show. Like, yeah, it's all well and good that Quindarius Jones looks good and Vandrevius Jacobs looks good, but let's see it on Saturday before we say that they were diamonds in the rough. They were in the rough. Nobody's doubting that. But are they diamonds? Well, you don't really prove that until Saturdays. But I have all the confidence in the world, especially Vandrevius Jacobs will be that guy. But Quindarius might too, man. And Josh Farmer certainly, I think, is on his way to being. He might be the example that they like. Here I am. What has it been? 12 years, 13 years since Devontae Freeman's recruitment. And I'm still using him as an example to prop up Jimbo Fisher. Yeah. Josh Farmer might be that guy for Mike Norvell one day. I mean, it certainly seems like he might be on his way to that.
And I'm pretty sure Farmer was his first commitment for 2021. And, like, there was reason for that. Like, he wanted Josh to be the first guy to come in. I think when he brought him in the office and offered him, like, let him know that.
Yeah.
And Farmer is a 3-star. I mean, Peyton was a 4-star on some services, but we were over at Rivals. At that point, Rivals had him as a 3-star, but he was a 4-star on different networks. But Farmer was more or less a 3 on most of them. So.
Hey, and I love it. I love the diamonds in the rough. I love the guys that prove people wrong and prove that Norvell and his staff know to evaluate. We could sprinkle some 5-stars in there now, big guy.
Absolutely.
Go ahead and do that. Maybe sprinkle in a 5-star or two.
Yeah. But no, I just thought it's cool because, again, it's me. Like, a guy like Quindarius Jones, I'm just like, really? Like, in the KJ Kirkland to a certain degree, too? Like, that's – I mean, they won 10 games. I know a lot of guys were kind of already snatched up by the time they turned things around, but, like, that's what they've built their momentum into is these players that are going to be 3-4 year kind of projects, redshirt junior. You're hoping they're going to pay it forward by then. And it's like, well, no. Like, you might – Quindarius Jones might be a guy that's going to be on the field in Orlando on a third down of like an 8-play drive, and they hope they get off the field or something at that point. So no, it was a fun little spring and day in Doak Campbell Stadium, Corey. Man,
that's cool. They got to go in there and do that. That's nice. And you got to sit down and get some sun, I hope.
Yeah, man. Felt nice. Florida State baseball. We're recording this as they're playing Clemson on a Thursday night at 8 p.m. Hopefully, when we rendezvous next week to start things off, maybe they've turned that little bit around. Otherwise, we'll have content from the last few days.
Hey, before we go, we got to give a shout out to Lonnie.
Okay.
I didn't realize this. I didn't realize that before Thursday, Clemson softball was 36-1 before they played a doubleheader against Florida State on Thursday. Well, now they're 36-3. Florida, and they had won 29 straight games at home. Well, now they've lost their last 2 at home because Florida State went in there and swept a doubleheader, beat them 7-0 in the first game and beat them 4-1 in the second. This is a team that like is 4th in the country in a bunch of different offensive categories, and they scored 1 run. So looks like Lonnie and her team have the ship was never wronged, but certainly it's righted now because that was a dominant effort on Thursday. So congratulations to them. Stole like 12 bases in the doubleheader. Just ran all over them. Just doing what Florida State does, baby. So they were number. And also a little interesting tidbit they had on the broadcast, Aslan. This was the first game in 12 years that Florida State had played an ACC team that was ranked higher than them. 12 years. Clemson was 4th in the country, is 4th in the country. Florida State is 6th. Well, that's going to be reversed after this weekend. But this is the first time in 12 years they played a team ranked higher than them from the ACC. And they went ahead and swept them. So good work, Lonnie and the gang.
31-7 right now for softball team. What, team 40? I don't know what the number is.
Yeah, team 40, 40th team. And Michaela hit another bomb of a home run. She had 5 RBIs in the first game. They're getting her going a little bit. Mudge, Flaherty, the whole gang, they all do it. They field really well. It's just what they do.
What about Dak? We got big Dak energy out there happening?
Big Dak energy. I don't know what she did in the first game, but she had she scored a run of one of the 4 in the second game. Got a base. Maybe she walked, but got a base hit. Got on base somehow and scored on a Flaherty infield single. That's the beauty of that team too. Like Flaherty hits like a little slow one hopper to the shortstop and beats it so easily she shouldn't have even thrown the ball. And that's how they scored one of their runs. They can nickel and dime you, they can out athlete you, and then they can hit it over the scoreboard too. Janai Kerr hit one off her face on the scoreboard for their 4th run. So they got a lot of ways to beat you, man.
All right. We got a lot of ways to keep you informed over at warchant.com. Stay connected to us throughout the Easter weekend. Hope you have a fun one with your families. Jeff Cameron, I think, is still going to put something out for you folks on a Friday from 1 to 3 o'clock, 93.3 FM, as well as Warchant TV. Observations, probably. I think Ira's probably knocking that out. We've got footage from practice. Adam Fuller yelling at me. Go check it out, everybody, if you want to just live vicariously through Adam and yell at me. That's available. I'm sure we'll probably also have some thoughts as well as Florida State heads into the final week of practice for the spring, Corey. Can you believe it? Next week's the last week. Well, they'll do one day on Tuesday afterwards, but practices 12, 13, and 14. 14th being the Garnet and Gold Showcase, and then 15 that following Tuesday. So
yeah, and then we'll have a long 4.5-month wait till we see football again.
Go check out the Jeremiah Byers interview. He calls them the offense core, the Showtime Lakers. Jordan's Magic Johnson, Johnny Wilson's Kareem because he's all tall as all get out.
Right.
He let us know. So he's feeling
I like that he knows who the Showtime Lakers are.
Yeah.
Not everybody his age would. So, all right, man. He's a sports historian. I like to hear it.
Yeah, because I'm like, hey, man, I know you're out here practicing and you don't really care about, like, how everything looks. But, like, now when you're in the room watching film, like, do you realize how good you are? It's like, yeah, man. He's like, I knew what I was walking into. He's like, I just wanted to get on the bandwagon. He's like, I just want to be part of this. So it'll make you feel good. It'll make you feel good. Go check it out.
Jeremiah, I like to hear it.
Yeah. For Corey, I'm Aslan. Thanks for listening to another edition of Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.